Hi, everybody. Thank you, Ted. I see that you you said I was having some technical difficulties. Um, I'm glad everybody can join us. I'm excited that so many people signed up and that you'll be hopefully more coming in as we go along here. Um, Double checking everybody. I'm assuming can hear me. If you see my mouth moving and you're not hearing anything, go ahead and feel free to put that off to the side there in the chat bar, and I'll know if I need to fix something or okay, cool. Thank you, Jack. It was a last minute struggle for some reason, but oh well. Sometimes that happens to me. Anyway, again, like I said, thanks. Thanks for coming and hanging out with me tonight. I think I know several of you that are joining in have this board already, and some were interested that didn't know anything about it. And I'm really glad that you decided to join in because so many people will know, that work with divination know about tarot cards, or they know about working with the pendulum or throwing bones or whatever it is. But it's like, what the heck is an ISIS board, right? Because that doesn't really exist until I pulled it out of my brain and put it into action. So several years back, I developed this divination system. The reason I did it was because I work a lot with dreams and in dreaming, and not just interpreting dreams, but understanding how to work in the dream time to manifest things and to uh, healing, just everything that you can do in that space. And the thing that I noticed that worked really well is like, it's kind of like for magical practitioners out there, if you work with sympathetic magic, so you're running something parallel to what you want. It's like you don't want to come at something directly, but if you run it parallel, you know what I mean, and you build that energy of what you want to have happen alongside of it, then it can kind of jump into realities. These little points where they just sort of flip, and it happens in your waking and everyday life. So with that idea in mind, I was that was part of my intent when I used hieroglyphs, was because it's not something that I normally see every day. It's not something that I'm reading anymore every day. This is an ancient language. So instead of looking at a word or looking at something you're really familiar with, you have this parallel position to it. Um, I find that if it's something that I really know, I question whether or not I am putting my own, looking at it through my own filters, or I'm not being as you know, I'm not objective as I could be with something like that. But why hieroglyphs, you ask? Well, I'll tell you. um, it's all about Isis. Several years back, before the board, I started having really bizarre dreams about Isis. And she looked nothing like this when I dreamt of her. She was really kind of scary, actually, and very, very intense. So I started just getting the feel for Isis. Like, who the heck is this goddess and why is she coming into my life? And I'm reading about Egypt and ancient Egypt and those that worshipped Isis at the time and all of the things that she was supposed to be about. And gradually, everything started kind of clicking in. And I wanted to be able to communicate in a different way. And I used then her mythology, the geography of Egypt, and the hieroglyphs, so that I wasn't immediately reacting to something that I already have great experience with in my everyday life. Um, so that's what I came up with the board. This is my board that I use. It's well used, it's well loved, and there really are a ton of things that you can do with this. today I don't want to overwhelm you because there are things in here that I have hidden in here that you can go way deep with this, but I wanted to kind of stick with the basics of it and how it works immediately, how you can read and get a feel for things right off the bat. So the first thing I did was because I also work with ancestral energies a lot and people who have crossed over, I have this sense of um, things being able to speak to me from beyond, from another realm. And the speaking stones, I call them speaking stones because when you cast them, it's like they're speaking to me. But also on the board, I put the hieroglyph for mouth or for speaking or for talking, and that's like right in the center. You don't really probably notice it right off the bat, but this line here where I have the moons and the suns, right here that comes across and comes down underneath her wings. This is a hieroglyph for the mouth. This is the glyph for speaking. So it's like the center of this plate, the heart of it is speaking to me when I use this. My eyes always go and focus here and on the canopic jar, being that well, this is actually Thoth. That's his jar, but still the idea of another realm or people who have passed over. The funerary jars in the middle. So this is like being able to access somebody else, someplace else, some time else, and have that right in the center of the board. From there, we've got it divided into 4 quadrants. And each quadrant then has an energy and a direction, and it has a story. For instance, up here where you see, oh gosh, totally forgot the name of it. The little thing you whip on the rice or the grain or the wheat. You hit the stem to shake off all the good stuff, right? I'm highly technical tonight, aren't I? So anyway, this represents in this quadrant where that symbol is. Then that idea of how do we do that in our lives? Are we able to prioritize? Are we able to take the good stuff that feeds us, that is useful, that is helpful, and then get rid of the bad stuff or the stuff that, maybe you need to recycle it or, put in your compost? Or are you taking everything in as equal so that it becomes overwhelming and you don't know which is the thing that you should focus on? So whatever lands in this area then will give you an idea about who you're reading for, if they're struggling with that or if they've got that down. Sometimes nothing lands in there. That simply means this is not an issue, it's not a priority, other things are more important. Move on, which I will. We'll come over to the Ankh in this corner here. This has a lot to do with what I think of as a person's not a religion, not your religious views, but kind of like your spiritual ideas and ideologies, but even more than that, it's like who you are, how you live, how you react, how life is going for you. It has a very deep sense, though, a very intimate part of who you are. It's not something that you share necessarily with other people. And this, what falls in here will give you lots of clues to things that could be going on in a person's life that maybe they're not even aware of, because those things deep down inside of us and inside of our subconscious really affect then everything out from there that just ripples out in your life. So it's important to know the things that maybe you're not aware of or the things that you need to focus more on or bring out a little bit. So we're moving around the board then. We've got the crook down here in the corner, like a shepherd's crook. So if you think of a shepherd, you understand that this area often has to do with business, with work, career, not always, but often, because it's about leadership. It's about how are you as a leader? Are you a leader or are you a follower? If it's It's also understanding that no matter where you seem to be in the pack, that you have value and that you don't hold yourself above somebody else or hold yourself as a subordinate or below somebody else. That you have value no matter where you are. The key is to focus on what that is for you and make sure that you're living that truly. Like if you're a leader and you're meant to be out there leading a team and doing things, you should not be following somebody else. Things aren't going to be going smoothly for you. And conversely, if you're someone who's normally more comfortable in the background and following, and that really is your role and that's who you are, don't try to be a leader. Just stay true to yourself. So this quadrant will talk a lot about those kind of things that are holding you up possibly, or the things that are helping you in those areas. So over in here, this is the money maker. So this is, I do think about this as money, but the scepter here, or this is about material goods, material world, the mundane world, very practical things. Opposite this, you see, with the opposite, we've got more spiritual. So this is something you have to take into account too. Reading as an X, reading across, depending on how they relate crosswise. So whereas this is like a spiritual thing, this is practical. This is how do you pay your rent? How are you buying groceries? What are the things you need to focus on just for everyday survival? Are you avoiding something by continuously cleaning your house or not prioritizing the things that might get you ahead in life? And so these are some of the basic energies just in the middle of the board. So we start with we're speaking, and then we have a little bit broader energies that surround this. And then we have all of these outside symbols. So you might be thinking, well, you don't read hieroglyphs, you don't read ancient Egyptian. It's like, that's not your thing. Do not worry. When I did this, I didn't want to entirely reinvent the wheel. I wanted people to be able to get this. These are all just energies, right? They're just all, the hieroglyphs are symbols of things that can trigger your intuition when you're reading for people. But like I said, I didn't want to reinvent the wheel. So what I followed the major arcana of the tarot. So if you're a tarot reader and you understand the majors, starting with the Fool, you can follow along on this board. Like if we start up in the north here, this is Isis's symbol. Can you see Isis up here? Right up here in the north, that first hieroglyph is of a child. So that's the Fool. That's the beginning. You're a baby. It represents naivety, new beginnings. It could be a delicate situation. Babies are, sometimes more fragile. Innocence. So it's just like the Fool card. It's the baby. And you can see the very next one is Heka. So that's the magician. Heka is the symbol for magic. I love this symbol, actually. I always kind of thought about maybe a tattoo. That's an aside, but this one, can you see? I'm going to bring this close if you can see it. It looks like DNA strand, doesn't it? It's that kind of swirl that comes up and the hands are holding it. So you got these two hands and then that magic that weaves up and out. And I think about when you would be, say you're casting a spell or you're releasing energy. So you're building, and then you send it out. And once you get it the way you want it, then there it goes. And that symbol, I just happen to love that symbol. So we've got the magician, and then Isis is the high priestess. It will follow all the way around, just like the majors. So it's not exactly the same as the tarot card, but it really gives you a big clue. So if you already know what that is, then you'll have a really easy time remembering what these symbols mean. And like this one over here, someone told me once it looks like a Dutch oven, kind of does. But this is the symbol for movements. It's a litter, where they would carry on, you'd have slaves probably that would carry them on the big sticks, and then, or like on Indiana Jones, what they put the, oh shoot, what do you call it? I just lost the Ark of the Covenant in that box, and then they're carrying it through on the big sticks. So that would represent movement, right? Like travel and movement. It's an ancient Egyptian suitcase, basically. So like the chariot card, it's just that it follows around until, because, I have 28 spaces here. So flipping it over here is a symbol for victory. So that's like the sun card. But beyond that, the sun, that's the last one, right? In the majors. Beyond that, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 more. These I felt were important to cover some of the energetics of our everyday lives in understanding that we're not covered in the tarot. This has to do with, like, this one is oppression. So you can hopefully see, let me see where I am right here. Yeah, right there. This little person has a large bowl or basket on his head. So it's the idea of what's weighing you down. What are you carrying that maybe you shouldn't be carrying anymore? Also, you might take note that it's on their head. So often people, now this is where your intuition comes in, because oppression, generally that could be affecting you emotionally too. But because this is the bowl on the head, think about it as what thoughts are holding you down, or how are you just stuck in your head. Use puns, use things that will come to your mind that will trigger that intuition to help with your reading. I think the biggest thing is and probably the most difficult thing, is to not question the information when you're getting it. That's hard, because sometimes I'll have really bizarre thoughts come into my mind and I think, should I say that? Is that just too bizarre? Does that even make sense? So, but yeah, you should say it. Just say it, and keep going and keep your flow and begin to trust the information that's coming to you. So we have oppression, and then over here is Thoth. That's his symbol. He's got the ibis next to him, and this is a stone that relates to communication and timing. It's a different kind of magic. So really, those things are important, communication and timing in particular. The per Ankh. This is something you're not going to find in a deck. This symbol, you see it's the Ankh with like a little house around the top of it. That symbol represents, in ancient Egypt, there were these houses, buildings where they would teach priests or initiates. There were libraries held there. It was a center for knowledge and for spiritual knowledge. So you would go there to learn how to become a priestess or a priest, or all of these different things were taught. The magic was taught there in these places. So if this one comes up, it means you're being initiated somehow. You're being called to, you need to learn something, do something that's coming through for you. I think this one is a very important one. The paddles are crossed. So anytime you see something that's crossed like that, that's like, stop. You just stop. Stop and think about where you are and where you're going. Maybe it's stop, if you just don't do anything anymore, or maybe it's stop, you need to turn left or right. You're at a crossroads. So that's about being at a crossroads. And sometimes it's about, you need to get out of whatever situation you're in. Just stop. I lost my place. Okay. This is a symbol of the soul. Ancient Egyptians believed that each person had at least 3 parts to their soul. And this one, I think the best way, it's like a bird with a person head on it, and there's an oil lamp next to it. I think the best way to describe this as being, it's like your higher self. So it's you, but it's not you. It's your soul, but it's like the collective understanding of all of your ancestors. So this is about divine intervention. This one comes up, it's like someone is trying to get a message through to you. So you need to listen, you need to pay attention. The least favorite thing that I did with my board, I have to admit, I put in a blank. I put in a blank stone. And I am the type of person that wants answers, and I want them to be explicit. And I wish that sometimes somebody would just come and tell me what to do, or just to say, here it is, lay it out, let me have it, rip the Band-Aid off, whatever it is, so I can deal with it. But life doesn't usually work that way. And readings sometimes do, but not always. And when the blank stone comes up, that means that you don't have enough information yet to make a decision. It means there's something in flux still, and you need to pay attention to all of the things going on around it before you make a move. There's some part that's unknown, so just be patient. That's when Thoth comes in again, that timing and everything. But it can be frustrating when it comes up. So that's the basic of the hieroglyphs. Now, if you notice, we've got the 4 directions, and there are symbols on each one of these 2, which gets a little bit more detailed, that you can take into account. If, for instance, a stone, which often happens, will land on one of these, or even on one of the glyphs. Sometimes the exact same stone will land on its own glyph. And then if that's the case, then it's like you better listen to whatever that one's trying to say, because you just got a double whammy on that one. But these, now, if you are a lot of people in different traditions, Native American traditions, in Wicca, in lots of traditions, the directions each hold an energy. And hang on a minute. I'm so sorry. If you can give me 1 second. I think I have a plug unplugged somewhere, and it just mentioned my battery was running low. Go figure. So give me like 2 seconds. I need to check my outlet, okay? One of those days. Hold on. So sorry about that. There I go, sucking the energy out of everything again. I apologize. I should be good. Except I just threw my board down. Hang on. Woo, okay. So I was talking about the directions, and each direction has an energy, and a lot of times people associate those with elements as well. This is a little bit different, because I based these directions on the topography of Egypt. So if you look at a map at Egypt, you're going to see that where the water is to the north. This column here represents the Nile. And up here where these blue lotus are is where it opens up out into the sea. So in the north is where I have water. It's flipped a little bit from what most traditions think of. But that first of all, the elements are everywhere. They're in every direction. I think depending on what coast you live on, you're going to decide where the water is for you in directionally speaking. But each of these does have an element. My elements in the directions are based on the topography of Egypt, though, so it's a little bit different. For instance, the mountains here, or the earth, is in the south, and that's also where Osiris is. I have symbols for the main characters of the mythological play of Isis. So we've got Isis and Osiris, and then we have Set and Horus. So we've got son, brother, wife, husband, and their whole story then can play into your reading as well. But don't despair. I include a book with this, so this is written down in the book, and all the meanings and the elements that are there, and the different ways that you can read with one of these, which is what I want to get into right now. Like I said, for those of you who are reading a lot with these and might want to do something a little more later with it, I can tell you a few other secrets about this plate. I want to stick with the main things, because you don't have to go any further. I mean, just with what this is a lot, and you can get all sorts of information with this. So for some of you who have been doing this for a while, I don't know, you may have some questions in just a little bit. I'm going to answer any questions you have about it. But the big main reading that I would do for somebody is I would have that person pick 13 of the stones. And the stones that come with it are these. They're little cross-shaped stones. And you can see like the cross, actually the same shape of the stone is in the board right here. It's the same shape. So each one of these is just like each one of the stones at Isis right here. That's a good grab. So what I do is I have them draw 13 stones, pick out 13 stones, and I cast the 13, read those, and at the very end I have them pull one more. And the reason why is because of the story of Isis. When Set killed her husband for the second time, she had this nasty habit of bringing him back to life every time he tried to kill her husband. So the second time he killed him, he wanted to make sure that Isis would not bring him back to life, so he chopped his body up into 14 pieces and scattered them all over Egypt and hid them all over Egypt. And then she spent years collecting his body parts. She found 13 of the 14 body parts. She was just missing one important part, which was his phallus. So she fashioned that out of solid gold and brought him back to life long enough for her to get pregnant with Horus. So what I have people do then is the 13 stones that you have representing the 13 pieces that she found. And then you draw the last stone, because that's sort of like, it activates things, so to speak. So it's my activator stone. It's that overall, what do I need to know overall with this? Where's the general direction? Once I get all this information, what's that last piece that I might need to know to make everything happen? So that's the kind of full reading. I do talk about other readings that you can do, like for career paths. And in that case, it would be like a tarot spread where you're laying cards down, except here, you're going to lay them down on these circles. And I call this the path of the moon and the sun. So you would draw one, place it starting over here, and you draw another one, and you place them each on these circles. And what this will help guide you, like if you have an idea, a creative endeavor, a business thing that you want to do, start here. And this talks about what you need to do while you're building this idea. What do you need to do to make things happen, to work on? What are the pitfalls? Each one of these until you get over here. And it starts to be birthed into the world. That's when the sun rises. So it's like, how is this going to be received into the world? What are some of the things I need to look out for with this happening? And ultimately, when you get back around, will I be successful or not? So this is a really helpful guide when you want real specifics for, in particular, like a creative endeavor or some project that you're doing. I'm going to show you real quick. I'm going to do a reading where I do 5 stones. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And this is going to be just in general for all of us, kind of like for the month of August, the rest of the month, see what we're up for. So a general reading. When I read, I'm sure all of you have your own things you do prior to connecting. Some of the things that are important to me is I like to be clean. Number one, just physically clean, my hands washed. I feel that's respectful and important. And then once I have the stones and I'm at this point, I will ask whoever's listening, whoever, like if my clients, they have guides or family members or whoever can give me some good information for that person, that it's clear, that it comes through okay, that I'm communicating that in the best way possible. And once I kind of go through my thoughts and focus, I just drop them. Luckily, none flew off the plate this time. They can. If a stone flies off the plate, don't pick it up. Leave it there. Just leave it, get it last. That's the stone, for whatever reason, can't live on your plate. It's an energy that's not able to live in your life right now. That could be a good thing. It could be an energy that's kind of a troublemaker kind of energy, but it could be an energy like love. Could be something that you really need. So that also tells you that there's something that's not able to come into your life right now. So take a look at everything that's going on. All right, I'm going to turn this around and try to give you an idea of what we got going on here and where everything landed. I'm glad one landed here because that sort of gives you an idea of when they hit on the outside edge and when it lands on one of these glyphs. You'll notice that out of my 5, 4 of them are face down. Unlike a tarot reading where a card is reversed, this does not mean that this is the negative aspect of this energy. It's still the same energy. The difference is you might not be aware of it. You are like, this is part of your subconscious, or it could be something you're trying to hide from people. So that's what you want to keep in mind. It's not a bad thing. It's just something you need to, like, hey, look at this. You're not paying attention to this. Or maybe you should stop trying to hide this part of yourself. So up here we have Isis. And she landed right at the top of the column here where the water is ready to come out. Ooh, I do have to tell you something. This will be helpful. This is something that is not in the book, but it's really easy to remember. If you work with chakras, this column here, like I said, represents the Nile, but it also represents your physical self and your body. And I have symbols that go up the column that represent your chakras. So this little T down here, that's your root chakra, your sacral chakra where the gold sun is. Let me slide this over here. Top right here, that's your solar plexus. And you've got your throat, your heart, where that cross is, like that X right there. Your third eye, that's your intuition, and at the top here where Isis is, the crown. So we have Isis. She kind of landed right between the heart and the third eye. So I'm going to start with her. She's the one facing up, and you don't have to start in any particular place. Often I'll start like in one quadrant and go clockwise. But if something catches your eye, go for it. Just trust your intuition. That's so, so important. Forget a lot of rules. These are guidelines, right? Not rules, just guidelines. So trust your intuition. If she popped out, I want to start here. So again, general reading for all of us. Isis being between your heart chakra and your third eye. It's really understanding that spiritual connection between your emotions and your intuition. And that for all of us right now, it's going to be high emotions that can sometimes, it might play with your intuition. It might make you doubt some things. And a lot of times when emotions are very strong, they have to do with fear. So I think Isis being there in the center is this idea that to remain focused on something bigger than yourself. Keep things so that you're prioritizing and you're not succumbing to this overwhelming fear or being upset about certain things that are going on in the world right now. Keep your focus on that higher self to connect your heart and your third eye so that you're getting good information. You're getting good in your intuition is on so that you know how to act and move through your life and in your decision making. So we have the Bennu bird here. The I don't know if you can even see this. I'm gonna keep it up really close. Can you see it? Kind of. The Bennu bird is like an Egyptian phoenix. So this one being upside down, it means there are changes coming. There are big changes coming, and they have to do with who you are at your core, being able to give things up and move forward. Sometimes it could be really easy and settle. Sometimes it's literally like you're burning down to ashes and you've got to rise again. But the idea is that this is a cycle. So who you are is a cycle, and these pressures and things that are happening right now for the rest of this month and into September are going to really push you to re-examine who you are and how you want to live your life. So it could be you are in the ashes, ready to rise. It could be you're at the stage where everything is burning down and you're not there yet. You could be ready to fly, coming up out of the ashes again. We're all in different stages right now. But the idea is all of us, we're not going to come out of this the same person that we were going in. The other one upside down here, again, this makes sense with this one because, like I said, it's changing, like who you are. Everything is changing right now. That we're coming up against a lot of different things that are going to push us in different directions that we're not used to, maybe not ready for, not comfortable with. Change never happens unless you're really uncomfortable. But this talks about this journey that we're on. This stone is Duath. It's like looks like a little star. It actually looks like a little kitty butt. It seriously does. But it's over here in this leadership position. So it's changing. Jobs are changing, careers are changing, who you thought you were is changing. And this is a journey that you're on. So take a deep breath. You're going to go along for the ride. The journey that this one represents is the journey that a soul takes after it dies, and it moves through the river before it gets to the Egyptian version of heaven. And it has to cross multiple gates. So your soul is in the canoe, it comes up, there's a gate. You can't pass that gate until you fight and kill the monster that lives at that gate that's trying to block your way. So this, you keep going on this journey where you're facing fears, you're fighting your monsters, things are changing. So it can be tiring. So take care of yourself. There's just going to be a lot of stuff that's coming up. I'm going to leave this one here for a moment. It's on the outside rim. And come over here where it talks about money. You want to know about money and the practical things. This is Shu. Not like on your foot, but just SHU. He's God. And I would liken him to the strength card. That would be the closest energetically that he would be. So in practical matters, you want to relax. Just relax. Don't fight it. Don't, it's so easy to say and harder to do. But as far as everyday money things, practical things, it's really important that you relax and you don't react in fear, but you're very pragmatic about things. The cool thing about Shu, and the reason that I liken him to the strength card, is that he is actually the atmosphere. So in Egyptian mythology, he's what held the sky up and kept it from falling on the earth. He's that layer of air in between. And he doesn't do anything, but he lives there. That's what he does. He's there. So it's like you have your greatest strength in simply who you are and the power of your being. It's just about being, not doing so much. Now this last one, it's the blank one. The one I told you, I'm just kind of sad I put that in there. But it comes back to me. And it's over it fell right over here, this symbol of, it's like a little person feeding themselves. It's about balance. So, or like the temperance card, perhaps something more like that. Uh, but the reason that this, this blank one over here is that, and I said really makes sense because I'm doing a reading for multiple people and a general reading. So this is not going to be one size fits all for how you deal with this. This talks about the energies going on, and this talks about it's really important that you maintain balance, but that's different for everybody. Some people need to go and scream into their pillow and get it out. Maybe somebody needs to drink more water or watch what the food is that they're eating. There's like all different ways to be able to kind of maintain your sanity with all of these things going on. So that's real basic reading. And I'm hoping that I covered a lot of this and probably did talked 100 miles an hour and you got all of that. But I want to know from all of you if you have questions. I'm going to put my glasses on so I can see what's scrolling on the side here and talk to all of you. Oh, Marian, yes, you wanted to have the board up closer so you could see that. Yeah, I've talked with my hands, so that's probably makes it a little hard if I'm moving and talking. But this is the basic board, the basic energies. Lots of ways that you can read with this. I also want to let you know how you can work with this magically or in a magical practice. And with that, what I do with this, like if first of all, I would give myself, not everybody can give themselves readings. I do it for me. I usually have pretty good luck with it. Get a general reading of what's going on and what I want and the energy. And then that will guide me to what stone I need to pull. So I will find that stone. Like I'm just going to grab, who do I have here? I have Shu again. So strength. So if I need to work on my inner strength, my peace of mind, the being confident, all, anything that might relate to that, I would use this stone then as a reference to build in, if you want to do a magical working, if you want to cast a spell, if you just need it to put it in your pocket. But you can take this out, you can add it to your altar. You can, put it next to a candle if you want to activate it, depending on what it is. You activate it with one of the elements. Being that this is, I think of this as something that needs earth. So I might put it in a bowl of dirt because it's like something that maybe I need grounding. Maybe I need to feel like my feet are firmly on the ground. So things that are like synthetic magic, you're working parallels again, so you can use these then in something that you're doing magically. And again, use your intuition with that. These are actually beads and there's a little hole in there. So I've even put other beads on them and strung them up to be able to hook them onto something, carry it with me, tie it around, like I said, a candle. It depends on what you're doing and what the stone is. But that's another way that you can use them without any kind of like doing divination for somebody else, just for yourself. And that's kind of fun to do. You'd be surprised what can happen when you're working with that. So does anybody have any questions at all for me? Or is everybody doing pretty good? It's very quiet out there. I do have, let me see here. Oops. So, I believe there is, this is the first time I've done this, but at the bottom of your screen down there below the picture, there's like a call to action button. I think you have to test, someone has tested out for me. But if you are wanting to know more about the board, like where to get it, that link, there should be a link there that will take you to our Etsy page that will show the board and the book and the stones and describe a little bit. And that is a place where you can order it if you're interested. But I'd love to know if somebody had like oh, let's see here. Let's get to, all right. Oh, okay. I just answered that one. Can I buy the board? Yes, you can. That's at that link. I'm hoping the link comes up and you are able to, Marianne, get it. I charge $150 for the board, and then there's shipping on that unless you live somewhere real close to me. I drop it off to you or something. And yeah, we just pick random stones. I don't ever look at the stones, and most people that I'm working with don't recognize the hieroglyphs anyway, so it doesn't matter if they see them or not. So you just pick whatever ones feel right to you and throw them down on the board, and that's, you just cast that way. And let's see. All right, I think, did I get everybody's questions answered, I hope? All right, so down at the bottom of the screen, there should be a button that says call to action. Do you see that one, Marianne? I believe if you click on that, is it showing up on your end? Otherwise, I'll have to send something out to you. Nancy, I'm glad you love your board. So you asked, do you pick the person? What do you mean? Do you pick the person you're ready for? Do I misunderstand what you're asking me? I don't know if you want to rephrase that. I'm not quite sure how to answer that. But if everybody, I feel free to chit chat if you have a question or anything, or let me know. Like, if for those of you who have the board, if you've been using it, I'd love to know like how it's working for you, and if you've been able to have good success with it so far. Oh, who picks the stones? I have the person that I'm reading for pick the stones. I really think that's up to you. If you are a person who just doesn't like people touching your things, and I get that, you can choose for them. It really probably doesn't matter at all. I tend to let that person choose, and I do keep my stones like cleansed and smudged and such so that they stay neutral. But you either way would work. The main thing is your intent and your focus. So as far as who's actually picking the stones, that's up to you. Oh, thank you so much. Ted put the link over in the chat bar. Thank you. I tried to be really proactive and have that all set up, and obviously that's how it goes for me. With technology, I drain batteries and I miss my links, but anyway. So there is a link in the chat if you wanted to check out the board as far as how you would go about getting one of those. So I'm glad that some of you who have the boards now joined me, and I hope that I gave you some more information. I'm gonna do something a little bit later on with the board and go more into depth about other ways that you can use it. I did put a lot in there so that people who follow different paths, it could resonate with them in different ways. Like I explained the tarot, there are other things in here too that can work for other traditions, not just the Western ones. And you'll also notice that it's one thing I forgot. This is probably a little harder to see. For those of you who have a board, you know that on this inside lip, all around here, there are letters. The whole alphabet is on here. It's kind of like a Ouija board. Up at the top, right in there, I've got a dark circle and an open circle. So we've got yes and no. And then we have the letters of the alphabet. So that's something you can use in your readings as well. I especially like that if I'm just reading for myself or wanting something direct. For working with something like that, I find that a pendulum works really well instead of like a planchette or anything, which you could do. It could move around on this, but I tend to like to see where it points in that way. So that is a little bit something that's available if you want to go that route and try to communicate in some way and get things literally spelled out for you. You can do that. And yeah, the book is the book on Kindle as well as hard copy. Um, it's not on Kindle right now, actually. The book is just the regular copy. It's a paperback book that will go through the different ways, like different spreads, so to speak, the different casts, the different ways you can read with this. It explains all of the energies. It gives you a definition for each one of the hieroglyphs. Talks about the different directions. So you have all of your main things in the book to reference when you're reading with it. The thing I do like about this, though, and for those of you who have it, I want you to have fun with it and experiment, see what works for you, see how you can come up with some things and play around with it. The main thing is to set your intention. And if you want a certain thing to mean something to you, like you put it in your mind, if it lands here, it's going to mean this, it'll still work. It doesn't matter if in my book I say it means this thing. Because you're using that energy flow and your own intuition, so it works really no matter what. So that's why I say I don't really like rules. I don't want you to get locked into one way of thinking. I think it's important to understand the basic energy and the flow of things, but beyond that, it's like once it starts flowing, it goes through everybody differently. So just feel it, use it how it works for you. All right. Any other questions for me tonight? I hope you all had fun. I hope that you followed along with me okay. I know that when I get talking about this board, because I love it so much, it's almost like I'm doing a reading again. So I start, like, everything starts to come at me, and I tend to go really quickly. So hopefully, you can always come back to this, though, right? You can look at it and blur through it, find what you need, the information. And you know what? I know most of you too. Feel free to email me or something if you'd like, if you ever have a question about it and something's going on that you're stuck on. I don't mind that at all. I'd be happy to answer any questions about it. So I'm gonna, let's see here. I'm gonna pop my email in here. And did I spell that right? All right, so Henriette Zhao at gmail.com is my email. And as you go along with this, I don't mind at all. Shoot me a message. If you have a question about something, I'd be happy to answer it. And we can go from there. Okay. All right. I think we've got all questions answered and everybody okay. I'm so happy you all joined me. I really appreciate it. It was really fun. I hope you had fun. And I'll be doing some more of these fun things later on, different stuff. Maybe talk about programming your dreams or dream walking or some fun stuff like that too. I don't know. So it's good to be in touch with people again, even if it's like this, because I miss everybody. So thanks for coming on. Thanks for joining me and for hanging out with me this evening. Have a really, really good night, okay? And I will talk to you all later. Take care, everybody.